First on SSVC, we're in the company of the Gordon Highlanders for a programme that joins them on their final overseas posting as they wave farewell to Berlin.
Gordon Highlanders! General salute! Present! And
You're losing 200 years of tradition. One day it's there, the next day it's gone.
I think they were the best battalion in the British Army, without a doubt.
Winston Churchill summed them up when he said, they are undoubtedly the finest regiment in the world.
it's up to you to show your pure style.
Defeat and surrender have never been part of the traditions of the Gordon Highlanders. With 19 Victoria Crosses, the highest number in the infantry, they consider themselves to be among the best in the British Army. So it's ironic that 50 years on from spearheading the fight through the heart of Germany, the Gordons' final surrender should come in Berlin, their last overseas posting before amalgamation with the Queen's Own Highlanders. The end of one of the British Army's finest regiments was always going to be difficult to accept, and a huge campaign back home kept hopes high of a reprieve. Even as the Gordons' final NATO exercise ended, many of the officers and men still believed that the battalion could be saved.
I think the colonel of the regiment has got a very good case to make. He believes he's got a 50% chance still of saving the regiment. He's got to convince ministers, politicians, you name it, that the British must conduct a defence review. If it conducts a defence review, it will find it is short. And if it's short, why cut us?
But back in Berlin's Spandau barracks, the Gordons' home for the past 4 years, it quickly became apparent that they were packing up not just for a home posting. The Gordons would be returning to Scotland to become Highlanders, the new regiment. The Ministry of Defence was holding the amalgamation line and not bowing to considerable public pressure.
It's very sad that we've got to go, but I appreciate the decisions are made by the Ministry of Defence, made by government, and we must take that as read. But it will be a very sad loss to the British Army.
The Gordons arrived in Berlin back in 1990, just after the wall came down. East Germany's demise meant that the city was no longer a flashpoint for the Third World War, though it was still under the four-power agreement. Now, even this has changed, and by the end of the year, Berlin will no longer have an Allied or a Russian military presence. For the first time in 50 years, the Berliners will be left to themselves. Among the first to go, the Gordons, who've made a big impression on the Berliners. They've awarded them the Freedom of Charlottenburg, an honour given to no other British regiment. So as the deadline approached for the departure, all that remained was a series of goodbyes to say farewell to Berlin. The gentle Jocks, considered to be the best behaved and disciplined of the Scottish regiments, were going out in style. As free men of Charlottenburg, they'd marched through the city with bayonets fixed for the last time. As far as the regimental sergeant major was concerned, it had to be more than perfect.
There's people who are on parade, who are moving about and fidgeting. Lo and behold, he's in there now and he'll stay there until Sunday when he comes off parade tomorrow. The Berlin people have been very good, especially Charlottenburg. They've been very good to the regiment and we've got close relationships with them. As we're the only battalion who's had the freedom of Charlottenburg. So it is a special event for us. And to sell ourselves, we've got to work 100% to make sure we provide a good one for the Gordons.
Off the parade ground, there was now reluctant acceptance that the history of the Gordons was coming to an end. Many personal decisions had to be taken to stay in and make the best of a new job or retire gracefully. For Colour Sergeant Alan Stewart, redundancy is preferable to amalgamation, despite the difficulties that civilian life will bring.
Because I've never done it before, it's a learning process. Where am I going to go to get a house, job interviews, etc. I've never had that problem before because my job is within the forces. I know exactly what I'm doing, when I've got to do it and when it's got to be done by.
Oh, I think he'll cope fine. I think
I'll adapt.
I'll adapt. I think so, yeah, definitely.
Do you think the British Army will be less of an army now that they don't have the Gordons?
Good question. Yes. I mean, you're losing 200 years of tradition. One day it's there, the next day it's gone. In my opinion, I'm afraid it's a sad loss, it really is. 200 years of tradition, a good battalion, a good regiment, and it's wiped clean off the face of the earth in one draw of a pen, basically.
Well, amalgamating, obviously I think everybody will make the best of it, but it's certainly going to be different. You know, I think it'll take a long time to settle in till people forget that there wasn't it. I don't think anybody will ever forget, but those persons living in it, it'll take a long, long time till they get used to it's not the Gordon Highlanders anymore.
We had people here last year from the Regimental Association, and you're going back to national service, and that's all he did. This one chap I was talking to, 3 years he was in the Gordon Highlanders during national service, and yet he's still a member of the Regimental Association. He still keeps in touch as much as he can. He still wears the regimental tie, etc. He was very proud to be a Gordon. And people like that, it'll be a very, very sad day for him. I mean, obviously he's an older gentleman now, he's in his 70s. But once a Gordon, always a Gordon.
If anyone was to sum up the approach of the Gordons to winning friends, it would be Lance Corporal Alec Jaffe. Off barracks, he's a highly popular member of the local Spandau darts and pool team. Has attempted to learn German and is going to miss Berlin and the Berliners. But after 22 years with his local regiment, he accepts that it's going to be hard in the civilian world.
Well, it's like going to be the first day I joined into the army. I have to start from scratch and start learning again about civilian life. It's the same as if I had to learn about the army life.
How well prepared are you for the ups and downs of civilian life?
I think as well as I can be. I'm going to get a few shocks, a few knocks on the road, but I have to take them in my stride. And you learn to take these things in the British Army anyway, because you get your ups and your downs.
Twas is heading off down south to 4th Para in England, and he's got his redundancy, and I hope everything goes well for him, because he's been a good lad, all right, and he'll most probably, when he leaves here, he'll be the first guy, ponytail and earring, to blend in with the civilians. And most probably the next time we see him in the Sam's mess, he'll come in jeans.
They don't go in for emotional goodbyes in the sergeant's mess, but underneath the laughter there's sadness that it's all changing, tradition coming to an end. There's a genuine sense of loss that so many good soldiers have been transferred to other regiments, retired or made redundant to make way for the new joint force. The most immediate loss is the Gordons Band, who play themselves into history in Charlottenburg and Berlin's Olympic Stadium.
It's sad to see the small band go. That's one of the reasons I'm leaving the Gordons. But it's great things to go in the band world.
I leave the regiment basically now, next month, and the next time I'll come across these guys in the mess again, they will be close to forming the new regiment, the Highlanders, amalgamating the Gordons with the Queen's Own Highlanders. So it is very sad.
It's been all my life. That's all I've known really, been in the band. I like to carry on when I get to so-called Civvy Street. I like to carry on in the music world.
I think it's a truly magnificent regiment. I've grown up in the regiment, and I felt this great feeling of warmth and friendship, which the battalion always holds out. And I think that's what's made it so appealing. I was immensely impressed by the very genuine feeling of the German people, who came up to me and said, "It'll be very, very sad when you go, because you will be the first of the British to withdraw, but it will be an immensely sad day when we no longer have the Allies in Berlin." And I sincerely believe that to be the case. The Berliners who raised that point with me were very much more the Berliners who saw the end of the last war, and they appreciate exactly what the Allies have done.
This is my first parade in Germany, the last one, and I'm nervous standing out there. We just like the pass-off parade. But I should be able to handle it.
Quite a few people. We've got the regimental band. It's their final performance on Tuesday night. We're actually on that parade as well. And I think it's looking pretty grim for the Gordon Highlanders just now.
Stay in most of the night, wear your kit. Some people can do their brogues in about half an hour, an hour, but I've only been in the battalion for about 3 months. It takes me about an hour, 2 hours to do my kit. I just my brogues. And it takes me ages to do my spats as well. You can see.
The actual feeling when you get, you're marched down that street and everyone's clapping and cheering and the pipes are playing, you know, it comes a big swagger and it's just totally amazing.
First 2 rehearsals we had, nobody was in step. But now, after all of them got a grip with us, everybody's in step with hands swinging and it looks very smart. Like, it's tough to be part of the guys.
Bishop, Green, Whelan, Hunter.
Stop!
So, gentlemen, the regiment. The regiment.
The Gordons are very much a family regiment, but some join for other reasons. Second Lieutenant Damien McNamara, a Canadian, joined the army and opted to become a Gordon Highlander because he was impressed by their legendary achievements. Does he feel that it's 200 years of history down the drain?
I don't think 200 years is going down the drain. I think what's happening is that we're combining our history with that of the Queen's Own Highlanders. Obviously, I'm upset. I'm brand new to the regiment, and in 8 months' time, I find I'm losing all that I worked for, and now it's become a new regiment. But I can't look at it like that. You got to be very positive about it. Okay, this is going to happen. Fine, it's going to happen. Let's make it as good as possible. the good point is that we're going to Ireland quite quickly after the amalgamation. So people can bicker, can complain all they want. But we're being thrown into a job, and I think that was the whole idea behind it. Or we're trying to work out our differences. You know, we realize, well, let's get this job done first.
Can you bring down the box that's in the bedroom, please?
Yeah, okay.
Major David Grant and his wife Mary know exactly what the Gordons are going through. They've been attached to the battalion during its term in Berlin and are now on the move again back to Edinburgh to prepare for amalgamation.
We, the Queensland Highlanders, have already gone through an amalgamation 30 years ago, so for us it's certainly not something new. We were quite surprised that to receive an announcement that we were to amalgamate with the Gordons, and doubtless as were the Gordons. The amalgamation, I'm sure, will go very, very well. We are territorially next door to each other in the Highlands and in Grampian. The only difference between Queensland Highlander and a Gordon Highlander soldier is the dialect. They have the same attitudes, the same ideas, and very, very professional young men. I think the difficulties will certainly be the old traditional sides of both regiments. They are both absolutely steeped in tradition. We've got to compromise on our forms of dress, our ideas of tradition, in order not to pack things out too much and have an equal 50-50 representation here so that there is harmony when we do amalgamate.
The most difficult job of all must be the commanding officer. Despite his own considerable feelings on amalgamation, he's got to make it work. And he's certain that it's the character of the men under his command that will smooth the way.
The soldiers are the selling point to me. They have this wonderful ability to be relaxed, to be funny, to be very well-mannered, to be very courteous. And that's interesting because of all the incidents that I've seen in my 25 years service, in Northern Ireland in particular, when they are provoked to great extremes, they always manage to turn the other cheek and get on with it. They don't get stuck in, they don't get waded into people and to individuals, etc. And I think that's one of the greatest attributes. The soldiers are very, very steady boys, and I was immensely impressed when I came back, having just been away, and I came back to the battalion to notice the tremendous spirit there was in the battalion. This very, very steady soldier, who's pretty unflappable, actually. He's a very, very good lad.
As the medals, memorabilia and memories of a great regiment are packed into crates for home, left behind are the physical signs of the Gordons' part in the campaign to free Europe from fascism.
We are here today to commemorate those who died while in captivity as prisoners of war. We honour all who are buried here.
In a simple ceremony at Berlin's British and Commonwealth Cemetery, 14 soldiers of the regiment are remembered, along with 3,000 other servicemen who died in or near Berlin. But now that the Allies are pulling out of Berlin, how much will their sacrifice be remembered? Will it become a forgotten part of history?
They will be remembered, and we really should remember the sacrifices that they made. I think the Second World War was a war that needed fighting. The world would have been a desperate place had that war not been fought and had the Nazis not been defeated. And the memory of not just the 14 people in this cemetery, and indeed, as I look round it, the 3,500 other British and French soldiers buried here, not only their sacrifice, but everyone that died in the war will be remembered, and I hope forever. As we move out of Berlin, we have been showered with gifts and honours by the Berliners, and that is because they remember the part that the British Army played in the liberation of Germany from the Nazis, and the part that we have played in maintaining Berlin as a free city.
Of all the individual stories of endurance and sacrifice, the one that should be remembered is that of Sergeant Kemp. In 1944, he escaped from a POW camp and was held at Sachsenhausen concentration camp just to the north of Berlin. 100,000 people were brutally murdered here. No one in the regiment knows what happened to Sergeant Kemp or what became of him, except that he was forced to endure terrible tortures in this camp of hell. Beside the execution block and the gas chambers, the British Legion have laid a wreath in memory of those British soldiers who perished here under the SS. There are strong reminders and links with the Second World War everywhere in Berlin. For Captain Chris Talego, the posting has had significant personal links. His father served with the Polish Paras. The new post-war Polish border is just 30 miles away from the Brandenburg Gate. Captain Talego joined the army from university, but he's now decided to leave the Gordons. His decision, nothing to do with amalgamation, but the new order in military life.
It's much harder to effectively train the people in any battalion. The money is much harder to come by. As a result, the training ammunition and training areas are much harder to come by as well. Also, the manpower has become much more strained as men are less available for training tasks because of other commitments, or they're simply not being recruited. And as a result, it means that the people that are left are working that much harder.
Ask any soldier about cutbacks and the answer is the same.
If you look at it now, how the British Army is overstretched, how much we are overstretched, it is unreal. It'll be a case probably, if anything does happen, it'll be like back in the Second World War, they'll just start drafting people in left, right and centre, when if they left it the way it was, the amount of regiments we had, they could have coped or handled with anything.
I have a feeling that history can only repeat itself. And I'm sure we can go back to the Peninsular Wars, the Battle of Waterloo. The British Army were no longer in Europe after that, and then you suddenly find them back in 100 years later, the First War and the Second World War. I would like to think that we wouldn't come back, but I can't guarantee that. I think it would be an option worth keeping open.
The Gordons as a regiment have done their bit. Any involvement in future conflicts will be as Highlanders. All that remains for them are ceremonial goodbyes. Their Berlin farewell was in the Olympic Stadium where Jesse Owens humiliated Hitler in 1936. German and Allied dignitaries were there along with a prominent former Gordon, now Army high brass who'd flown in especially for the ceremony. Once a Gordon, always a Gordon.
I don't think that the history of the British Army and its Scottish regiments would be the same without the Gordons. For 200 years they have been involved in every theatre in which the Army has been engaged. And its exploits are legion. We could go on all night describing it. But I think that the contribution that the Gordons have really brought to the Army has been the contribution of the North East Jock. He's the man who's made the Gordons the regiment that it is now and always has been. And he's the man that I hope will carry on the Gordon name with the new regiment.
A trip to the dentist is enough to fill many patients with dread, but in 15 minutes it's the dentist who's getting worried, and that's just part of the trouble with Mr. B.